Εξομολογήστε το Κύριο διαγραφός, αλληλούια, ότι στον αιώνα το έλεος αυτού, αλληλούια.
Anyway, man, I'm glad that you still come in here and stuff, man. It's good.
I have a question for you.
Yes, that wasn't the question before about music. This one, okay, fine.
No, I just remembered it when I saw your face. It's just because that's the last time I saw you was in that video.
Oh, okay.
So it just came to me.
Yeah.
But okay, so what do you think? Do you think we're all sinners?
Are we sinners?
Are we all sinners? All of us?
By all of us, do you mean every human being alive today?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. And why is that?
Because we have short terms.
In short words, yeah.
Okay. We have a nature that is corrupt, and because of our free will, we choose to sin.
Because we're humans, we sin.
It's not innate to being human, no. It's innate to the nature. We have a corrupt human nature. The perfect human nature, you wouldn't sin.
Perfect. But
Actually,
Adam
wait.
sinned in his perfect human nature.
Yeah, that's a good point. Let me rephrase that. With a perfect human nature, you will be less inclined to sin, but you could still sin, and hence corrupted the nature. But with Christ, he had a human nature and a divine nature, and his divine nature withheld him from sinning.
Yeah, but that's exactly my point.
Oh.
Is because you guys say he's 100% human and
No. Fully human,
Yeah,
fully man.
that's what I
But when you say 100%, that's like saying I have a cake that's 100% flour and 100% egg. So what,
No one says that.
No. Well, Muslims here would say that. They would be like, if you say 100% this and 100% that, then it's 200%. You understand? So that's how we say fully, right? Like you're fully flesh and you're fully spirit, because you're flesh and you're also spirit.
Am I?
Yes,
No.
we all are.
I am spirit plus. Spirit
Do you
plus flesh.
fully embody a human nature?
I don't know. What does that even mean?
Are you human? Are you fully human?
I am a human.
Okay, to be a human, is there a material aspect and an immaterial aspect?
Human is material aspect.
Only material.
Human.
A human with a soul.
Oh no. There's a spirit. Yeah.
Okay, right. So you actually embody two things. You embody, as part of being human, the material and the immaterial.
Yeah, but I wouldn't say I'm fully human. Sorry.
Fully material and fully immaterial. Well, you are.
No, I'm partly material. I'm partly material.
No, the fullness of you is in both. Because you. Okay, so a
The
car.
fullness of me is the colliding of.
No. What I mean is, it's not to say that there isn't another aspect of you that isn't, but rather that you meet the requirements for having that thing. Like a car meets the requirements for having plastic, because there's plastic in a car. It also meets the requirements for having metal, because there's metal in the car.
Metal and fully plastic.
It fully embodies metal substance, because there's metal in it. It fully embodies plastic, because there's plastic in it. And that's what it means to be a car. To have the nature of a car. Right?
So the cake
technically
is
it
fully
isn't like defined. You don't have to have that in a car.
The cake is made up. The cake is fully flour. Is that what you're telling
It's
me?
fully embodying flour because there's flour in it. Yeah.
No. Wait, that's so broken.
Why?
See, even he.
No, I don't think. No, I don't. I get it. Basically, look, maybe you can do it both ways, but I think it's very.
You have a leg, right? You have one leg. Well, you have two legs.
I'm not fully leg.
But you have a leg. You have the nature of a leg, because you have a leg. So and you have that completely. So you fully have it.
Yeah.
That's the sense in which I mean fully.
What you're telling me is this leg is fully bone and fully muscle.
Because as part of the nature of the leg, it has within it necessarily bone.
Yeah, but it's not fully bone. Bone is just part of it.
Fully means it has it. Like if you have a match and a matchbox and you strike the match, the only reason it sets on fire is not because the match has its own nature and so does the friction within the surface, and when you strike them it sets alight. Actually, it's just Allah making that happen, because he is the cause of all things.
I mean, God is the one who ordains everything.
Does he cause things like that to happen? Or does he allow things to have their own natures? Like a matchstick with sulfur on the end of it has its own nature. And if you strike it along a rough surface with a lot of friction, it will set alight. That's inherent in its own nature.
By God's will, yeah.
Right, is that just God allows that to happen, or God is the one who actually causes that to happen?
Okay, let's put it this way.
Yeah.
If God did not will it light on fire when you do that? Can the universe work on its own? Can the laws of physics work on their own?
So a Christian believes that God sustains the universe, right, and everything in it.
Yes.
But he allows for secondary causation. So as Christians, we believe in secondary causation. So we think that you actually have the ability to cause things,
Yeah, of course.
and you do it freely. You can, in some situations, do it freely, right? But a Muslim, I don't think, has that ability to hold that perspective.
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, you also have the idea that God hardens people. You have the idea, for example, that Pharaoh, God said that He will harden his heart
Yes.
so that he will believe.
Right.
Yeah, so if everything has to go hand in hand. You are a free agent. Everything has its own nature. But if God does not will me, if I drop my phone, if I say I'm going to drop my phone now,
Yeah.
it will drop by the will of God. But that doesn't mean that there's not laws of physics that are real.
Right. So that's not the traditional Sunni perspective. The traditional perspective is occasionalism. The idea that Allah wills all things that happen in the world. And I've seen Muslims on YouTube, like they argue for this from the Quran and from the Hadith. I'll show you what they say. Like,
I don't know, you told me Ashari is Orthodox, but
what, Ashri?
yeah.
Well, it depends.
Let's not get into that. Let's not get into that.
Are there more Ashris or more Atharis?
Asharis.
Yeah.
Wait, what?
I mean, my point to you is
Oh wait, Athari. Oh, so no, you said no. There's, I don't know.
there are more Ashri by far than there are Athari.
First of all, there's no such thing as Athari. What we call them is Salafis.
Yes, okay, Salafi. Yeah, those who follow the school of Hanbal. Hang on, how you doing?
Not Hanbali, but the Salaf in general.
Let's say if
Yeah.
someone walking in the street and a car hit him, let's say.
Yeah.
Who caused this accident?
The one
Yes.
person who was driving the car.
According to Christianity, I'm telling you according to Islam. Yeah.
Right, so
Someone
according to
walking-
Christianity,
Yeah.
people have secondary causes. So for example, you can freely choose to do things, so can he and all the brothers here. So if a car goes into someone, it's the fault of whoever was driving, right?
Yeah.
Now God is the first cause, so he sustains the whole universe. He sustains our existence, but he allows us to have our own free will. In Islam, I don't think you have secondary causation,
Oh, then why do you pray anyways?
So do you mean this
because
is
Allah makes you pray.
No, you. I'm talking about you.
Because we pray because God knows in his foreknowledge, which is different from determining things, in his foreknowledge he knows that we would pray, and based off that he will give us what we ask accordingly.
How is that different from what I just described?
Because Allah predetermines events.
Certain events.
No, I say all events.
No.
now
That's
in
just
Islam you
false,
mean?
that's
Oh yeah. Let-
In Islam.
false.
See, I know where you're going to go because you're not going to like this hadith, but let me
It's
read
mentioned
some of this.
in the Quran
Right.
clearly. أجل مقضى وأجل مسمى.
Hi,
Yes,
guys.
We
yes.
have.
Hey, man, how you
أجل
doing?
مسمى, human they can live up to 120 years. And now someone hit him with accident. It's not God wanted to die in this such a way.
Yeah.
It's just it's his fault, the man.
I think I've mentioned this to you a while back. Al-Qadr, it's the idea in Sunni Orthodox Islam that everything that is, in terms of acts, events, choices, are all determined by Allah, and they are present in the eternal tablet. Yeah, is that fair? Here's an interesting question, if you don't mind answering. Do you think that you have free will in Orthodox Islam? Yeah, you do. So you hold to a compatibilist view, that there is some real sense that you have freedom of choice, but also that Allah has already determined what you will choose. See, to me, I think that's irrational.
No.
Because on the one hand he's
Allah
saying
knows
he's
what-
free,
what you
but on the
gonna
other
do,
hand
what
he's
you-
saying Allah's already chosen for him.
No.
Well,
Allah not determined
with
what-
respect for us, you're not going to represent the Sunni Orthodox belief here, which is why I asked this man. But you understand that to say that you can freely do something, but it's also determined by Allah before you were even born.
I did not say that.
No, I asked that's what he clarified, right?
Yeah.
I said, is everything determined by Allah from the very beginning? Yes. Do you have free will? Yes. So there is a way that in which you are both free and everything is determined. Yes.
Yeah, but here's the thing. The things, God determining things. Also, that encompasses also the permission of God. That something happens with His permission. Like God determining the way the world is going to be,
Right?
encompasses within it the things that God permits to be.
I don't know what you mean by that. Like the very words you're speaking now, did you choose to speak them, or did Allah already choose to speak them for you?
Good question.
And if you say both, I don't know how that sounds like a contradiction to me.
I don't think it's both.
No.
Okay, so it's not both. So is it you or is it Allah?
I'm cool with
I think it's just bro. Like
You think it's just you
I
think
don't
it's
know
just
where
you?
I don't know where you get the idea.
Well, I mean,
this idea that you're proposing.
I could talk to many Muslims, and to be honest with you, what he said seems to be the Islamic perspective.
You just said
Yeah.
the tablet is eternal earlier. Did you say that?
No, I'm saying everything is determined and written on the tablet. How do you pronounce it? Yeah, it's on that, right? Yeah.
Yeah, everything is on the tablet. We know that.
Right.
But
So
what
that
you
means
get-
it must happen, right?
That means it will happen.
Okay. Is there any possible world in which it doesn't happen?
Well, God wrote everything on the tablet. There's nothing that's going to happen that's not on the tablet.
Well, no, he only wrote what will be. He didn't write like theoretical things. He wrote what will be.
Everything that will be was
Okay,
written.
so that has to happen, right?
It's not, bro. You're putting it. You're wording it wrong.
I'm not wording it wrong. I actually think that's a really concise way of wording it.
No. Okay, let me just try to put it. The idea is God had a plan
Right.
of how things are going to go.
Yeah.
And because he's all knowledgeable, he knew how things are going to go. And based on that knowledge, and he ordained some of those things,
Right.
predetermined some of them,
Yeah.
not all of them.
Okay,
And then
I
wrote
have-
everything that's going to happen on the
Yeah.
tablet, and then created.
Okay,
And things.
I have no problem with God predetermining some things. I have no problem with that.
Great.
What I have an issue with is when you say that what I think, if I understand the position correctly, is all things.
Yes.
He determines all things. Therefore, what that would mean is that Allah has written what you will say next.
Yeah, no. that's
And if
not
he
it.
has written what you will say next,
Because he knows
Yeah.
what I'm going to say. Not because he determined
that's
it.
interesting. So that means that he has knowledge of what you would do in
Gonna do,
every
not would
in
do.
every situation, or
What I will do in every. Yes. How do you? Is that not something that you?
so in
believe?
that case, then Allah's knowledge is determined on your actions,
What?
because Allah has full knowledge of what you will do,
Yeah,
right?
of course. Do your God not know that?
No, you're actually describing the Christian position, which is why I think it's interesting. I don't think you can hold this Islamically.
No, I think I do. I'm pretty
You
sure.
think you can hold this Islamically?
Allah says in كل شيء خلقناه بقدر, everything.
Say again.
Allah says when he mentions qadar, he says shay. إن كل شيء خلقناه بقدر. It's everything. It's not something.
Yeah, everything. Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
not.
I know.
He didn't determine something. He determined everything.
No, but I think what we're different is where we differ is
See,
how we define determined.
Yeah, but
the word
it's-
determined.
Well, he also compatible. He's basically saying there's a way that you can, in a sense, be free, and in a sense, follow what Allah has written. That's what I understand from this perspective. But I don't see how that works, to be honest with you, from a logical point of view. But I've looked at like the scholars,
You have to
Hamza
keep in
Yusuf,
depth, 'cause
like I don't know, Muslim Lantern, I think I listened to, Muhammad Ijab I listened to.
not scholars.
Okay, sorry. I mean, I'll try and find the best that I can. But Yasser Qadi as well from the Yaqeen
And
Institute.
Hamza Yusuf doesn't even agree with our position.
Which one? Wait,
He
who?
doesn't agree with our position.
Hamza Yusuf.
Yeah.
I watched a video where he seemed to be saying that
He
he
believes
does.
in Naghritul Qasb. It's not us.
Oh, actually, he also. Oh, okay. My apologies. I didn't know that. Okay, but yeah,
Can I just get, what exactly was your contention?
my contention is I don't think in Islam, Orthodox Sunni Islam, you have a libertarian free will. I don't think you do. It seems to me, from what I understand of Islam and from what I've heard others say, that Allah has predetermined all things, and it's written in the preserved tablets, and that must happen.
Okay.
That to me is the Islamic position. Is that correct?
Now
And
the
if-
question is,
yeah.
what issues do you have with that?
I believe I am a free agent. I believe you're all free. I think you actually make choices in your lives.
I do agree you are free, and that goes against.
Can I give you
Oh.
verses that just that?
Because I've seen Athari Muslims say, there's a verse in the Quran that says, Allah has created you and what you do.
Show me this.
And there's another verse in the Quran that says, nothing will befall the believers apart from what Allah has said will befall them. Basically, something like that. I'm paraphrasing. But there are, I mean, don't get me wrong, the Quran assumes that you have the moral duty to do things. It's clear in the Quran. Everywhere it says, you need to do this. If you do not do this, you will be amongst the losers in the hellfire, and things like that.
Yeah.
But it also seems to imply that everything that is, Allah makes, and that includes your actions.
No, that's not in the Quran.
Well, I've seen Atharis argue from the verses I quoted.
For example, we know that Allah, that we have a, how do you say it, أجل مقدر, أجل مسمى.
I don't know.
How do you say it in English?
I don't know. I really don't know.
That God give us, for example, give us alive, let's say up to 120 years we live. Yeah.
Right.
And
Oh,
if
and
someone had an accident
yeah.
and he died, then that's called أجل مقدر. أجل مسمى, I don't know say in Arabic. It's like you live your maximum life.
Yeah.
Let's say up to 100 years.
Yeah.
Now, if you had any accident, any cancer, that's ajal al-muqtahir. God has to take your soul out of your body because your body cannot stand this accident.
I don't know. It would seem to me as if God already knew you were going to have that accident, and that was
No.
determined to
No,
happen.
he doesn't.
Yeah,
Of course
but
he
you
knows,
have to
but
bring evidence. You've been making.
Oh, there are
assertions.
tons of hadith, bro. Like seriously, I'm trying to
Tons
just stick to
for
the
you as well,
Quran, but
you were saying something.
so, for example, there's a hadith where Abu Huraira, Muhammad said to him, "The pen has written all that it is to write about your destiny. So, whether you make yourself a eunuch on that account, it doesn't matter. Leave things as they are." In other words, Abu Huraira is saying, I'm worried that I might do sexual immoral things. Should I become a eunuch? And he asked Muhammad this. And according to Sahih Hadith, Muhammad says, the pen has already written everything it has to write about your destiny. So, whether you make yourself a eunuch or not, it's irrelevant.
What's the eunuch?
When you castrate yourself.
Oh, right.
So because he doesn't want to commit sexual immorality and he's worried about it. That's it. Another one is there's a hadith that says that all acts of adultery are known and you must commit them. Yeah, sure. So I was just quoting from this one. That's Miskat Amish PB 88. Apparently Bukhari transmitted it.
Okay.
So maybe you can find it Bukhari as well.
Okay.
But there are tons. So a really interesting one is there is hadith that he said where there's a discussion between Adam and Moses, and it's something like, hang on, let me find it for you because it's really interesting.
What is interesting about it?
Because they have a debate, and I think Moses overcomes Adam, or Adam overcomes Moses with it. It's said in multiple narrations. Just trying to find it.
All right, let's agree that's correct.
Okay, sure.
Just a progressive conversation.
Yeah.
Do, do we agree?
Yeah.
Do we agree
Yeah.
that the God that deserves to be worshipped
Yeah.
is a God that is uniquely perfect and all-knowing?
Yeah.
We agree with that.
Yeah.
That the God that deserves to be worshipped is uniquely perfect
And all knowing.
and all-knowing.
Yeah.
So any other deity that claims to be God
Yeah.
or that given God qualities that is not all-knowing is a false God.
Yeah. Sure.
We're in agreement.
Sure.
If we're talking about a God that is all-knowing,
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm saying to you, God has never created anything except that He has complete knowledge and control and power over all of His creation.
When you say he has complete knowledge,
Do you agree with that? Well, shall we discuss that?
Well,
the
yeah.
all-knowing creator.
There's a lot to go into that because you talk about all knowing, right?
Yeah, all-knowing.
What is all knowing for you?
Well, nothing is outside of His knowledge.
Nothing. So he also knows falsehood.
Sorry?
Does he know all falsehood?
God
Yeah.
knows everything,
Yeah.
good and evil, and there's nothing outside of His knowledge.
Okay, but-
Nothing can exist
Right.
that is outside of His knowledge.
Right. So for
You
example.
cannot surprise God.
So for example, if I said a claim that your name is Gary, right? Your name isn't Gary. So God doesn't know that because God does not know falsehood.
You saying God does not know falsehood?
Yeah, he doesn't.
Is that your
I'm-
argument?
Yeah, that's my argument. Yeah. I don't think God knows falsehood.
No. I'm arguing, which
Okay.
I've already argued, that the only God deserves to be worshipped is a God that is all-knowing
Sure.
and perfect in knowledge.
Okay.
Now, for example,
Right.
now people,
So does. Hello. How you doing? Nice to see you. How you doing?
now,
Yeah.
if you go to your Bible,
Sure.
you will recognize that God is the God of good and evil.
Yeah, he's the God over all things. Yeah.
All things, exactly.
Over all things, right?
Right.
To have dominion over them.
That's right.
Right.
He has
I'm,
power.
I'm talking about an epistemological point of view here.
He has complete power, absolute power.
Okay, what do you mean?
absolute power.
What do you mean by that?
Well, there's nothing
There's nothing he can't do.
in this universe that you can
Right.
think about
Right.
that God doesn't have power and control over. He has power. Do you
And
understand?
when you say he has power, does
Right,
that mean
let
he
me-
can
let me-
enact it?
Let me explain something.
Okay, sure, yeah.
Power in this case means he has ability,
Oh, he has. Okay, so
full ability,
if I describe something, God must be able to actualize it.
if he wants. But the question is this.
Okay.
The question is,
Yeah.
are you worshiping a God that is not all-knowing, in which the creation acts outside of his power? The God that you worship.
So the God that I worship has dominion over all things, including creation. He is the first primary cause through which all else flows, and he sustains the world and the universe. We have secondary causation, which means that us, as human beings, have free will, and we can make our choices of our own. We can choose to follow God and his prophets and his revelation, or we can choose to reject that.
But you don't
And
worship Jesus, do you?
I do worship Jesus.
Okay.
Just as the apostles worship Jesus, as recorded in our Gospels.
Now, if you're worshiping Jesus
Okay.
and you say that your God is all-knowing,
Yeah.
are you saying that you believe that Jesus is all-knowing?
In his divine nature, Jesus was all-knowing, yes.
All right. So there are two parts of Jesus we're talking about. His
Two
physical
natures,
nature, his physical, and his divine.
Well, it's not quite physical, it's human. Because
Human,
to be
physical.
human means flesh and soul.
Right.
Right, okay, yeah.
Is that not physical? Flesh is not a physical
No,
thing.
no, soul is not physical, that's my point.
So we're talking about his divine nature.
Yes.
Tell me 5 characteristics of Jesus' divine nature.
All-powerful, all-knowing, a real meaningful sense in which he is all-present, what's the word? Benevolent, like ultimately benevolent, and what's the fifth one? I don't know.
All right. And
whatever for.
these
Yeah.
God qualities,
Yeah, yeah,
Jesus attribute that to himself in the sense of saying, my nature, my divine nature,
Yeah.
in my divine nature, I am all-knowing.
yeah.
Did he say that?
Did he say that? He said he knew all things. Yeah.
No. I'm saying, if you're saying to me that the God that deserves to be worshipped is all-knowing,
Yeah.
and you're saying Jesus is all-knowing,
Yeah.
right? You know very well there are many parts in the Bible in which Jesus was not all-knowing, because the scripture says no one knows the day of judgment.
Yeah, and it's
not the
human will.
angels, not the angels, not
Yeah.
the Father, not the Son. No
only-
one
only the Father.
knows
Yeah.
except the Father.
Yeah.
The day of judgment.
Yeah.
No one knows it.
Sure.
Right.
Mark 13,
Exclusively.
32.
But Jesus is the
Matthew
Son, he's not the
24,
Father.
36. They're not the same, no, they're distinct.
Jesus is the Son, he's not the Father.
Yeah, they're distinct. So they're not the same.
All right.
Yeah.
So Jesus is the Son, he's not the Father. But
correct.
yet from Jesus' mouth,
Yeah.
he said, no one knows the day of judgment,
Yeah.
not the angels, not the Son, but the Father.
His own humanity is what he's in reference in there, because in his divinity he did know. And we know this because the Bible says in many more
So
passages.
then Jesus, the Son, is also the Father.
No, they're not the same.
No, because Jesus says, no one knows the day. Shall we just move?
Yeah,
The shouting is very
Yeah, yeah.
disturbing. Sorry.
So you were saying.
Yeah.
So what is clear through looking at Scripture holistically is that Jesus knew all things, because it says so in multiple places. For example, John 16, verse 30, Jesus says that everything the Father knows, he knows. Likewise, you'll find a similar statement in John 2, and likewise in John chapter 21, verse 17. So there are multiple places, and that's just the Gospel of John, but we can go to other Gospels if you want, where Jesus affirms that he does know all things. And the disciples believe that as well. So there is a real sense in which Jesus can grow in knowledge, and there's a real sense that he knows all things.
You can grow
And-
in knowledge.
Yes, because it says explicitly in Luke. In
can
Luke,
grow in knowledge.
Yes, it says
Increase
that Jesus increased in wisdom.
Right.
Right.
So to be just to be clear,
Yeah.
the all-knowing God, all-knowing God,
Yes.
does he have the capacity, the all-knowing God, to grow?
If God wanted to join onto himself humanity, and that humanity that he joined onto himself did grow in knowledge, because that's what humans can do, then there's a real sense that God himself has done that. This is what we would call in philosophical terms, experiential knowledge. So for example, I don't know what it's like to be a woman, because I'm not a woman. I can't experience that. Now, God, I also think, doesn't have that experiential knowledge, because it doesn't make sense to say God knows what it's like to be a woman, because God isn't a woman, right? So there are some things that you can say that God simply won't know. Like he doesn't know falsehood, right? He also doesn't know what it's like to be a woman, right?
So your God is not all-knowing.
Well, would you say that God does know what it means to be a woman?
I'm arguing the opposite, and I will get a chance to present my
So
argument.
this is why
But the
when
question-
we talk about knowledge, it's really important we understand exactly what we mean, because there are different branches of knowledge.
Christopher, is Chris.
Chris
okay?
is fine, yeah,
Chris,
it's all good. Yeah.
Chris, if someone is all-knowing,
Yeah.
it's not difficult to understand all-knowing.
Of course, because
very
it says in the Gospels in multiple
Either
places,
you know
right?
or you don't know.
Well, Jesus does, which is
Right.
why I've affirmed that from the very beginning.
No, we go back to the God now.
Okay,
The
sure.
unique characteristics of God.
Yeah.
So we are saying that the God that deserves to be worshipped
Yeah.
is a God that is all-knowing.
Yes, in a way that
Right.
we'll agree with, but yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right. a God is all-knowing. And
Yep.
I'm saying the God that I worship,
Yeah.
there's nothing that is outside of his knowledge.
Nothing.
Meaning to say, whether
Well,
you're a man, let me present
Again,
my,
it depends on knowledge, right?
Let me present my,
Yeah,
whether you're a man or a boy, whether you're female or male,
Yeah.
regardless who you are or whatever you are,
Yeah.
God knows absolutely everything that you experience.
From a propositional point of view, yes.
All-knowing.
But not from an experiential
Now,
point of
there's
view.
nothing
Right.
that you can think about
Yeah.
or you can point out that God does not know.
Well, I kind of gave you an example. God does not know what it's like to be a woman.
You making that assumption. That's your assumption.
You think-
because you are a man
But
and
you
you
don't-
think, slow down, Chris.
Okay.
You are a man.
Yeah.
And you're not a woman.
Right.
You're making that assumption because you don't know what it is like to be a woman.
Right,
God
right.
does not know. Now,
Right.
the components that make up a woman, who brought all these components together?
Yeah, God, yeah.
Right.
I'm happy to say that.
So
Yeah.
let me ask a question.
Yeah.
If a man make a car engine,
Right.
you don't think he understand what it takes to maintain that car engine, and when that car engine break down, what it takes to repair
Right,
it?
but that's a different kind of knowing.
We're talking about all knowing.
Yeah, exactly, right?
What
so,
is different?
So,
is all.
for example, if I knew all even numbers, right? That's one kind of knowledge, like propositional logic.
Yeah, but that's not
But if
all
I-
knowing.
Okay,
That's not all
that's just one bit. But then there's another type of knowing, which is experiential, what you experience. For example, I know what it is to be 5'10". I know what it's called. I know what it's like to be called Chris. I know what it's like to wear these clothes. But you don't know that because you haven't worn these clothes.
Yeah.
I don't
That's
think you're
human
exactly
being.
5'10", right?
That's,
But
that's,
point is-
that's from a
yeah.
human perspective. You're describing the human.
No. The reason why this is interesting is because you can make these statements to God.
No, you're
Does
making
God-
those statements of God. But the question is, I'm saying to
Okay,
you,
so are they not valid?
I'm saying to you, God is all-knowing.
If they're not
And
valid,
there's
then there are
nothing-
things that God doesn't know.
I'm saying God is all-knowing.
Okay.
And you don't hold that view. You will
No,
take-
I do hold that God
No,
is
no.
all-knowing. It's just I define what I mean by all-knowing.
Right,
That's
the
my point.
question
Just like I do with God is all-powerful.
Chris,
Just go back to what you said. I really don't want to interrupt, but I want to give
No,
a
go on
holistic
then.
view here.
No, you carry on.
You said all-powerful, right? Well, can God make a married bachelor? Can he make a married bachelor?
Let him Billy argue.
Because
No, Billy argument
the
is-
point is that is a contradictory thing. So no, God can't make a married bachelor. It's a nonsense claim.
Yeah, but that's because we say God is capable of all things, but that's not a thing. What you described there is not a thing.
Well, I mean, it is in one sense, but it's not in a sense that it's a consistent thing. So can God do only consistent things? Yeah, it seems that way.
But that would be like saying, could you say that could God create a God that's more powerful?
Right, you can
That's
get to
not
these
a thing.
absurdities. Well, I agree it isn't, but we don't say God can do all things, including the absurd things. We go, no, God can only do the possible things, the logical things. Because if you go outside of that, you get into absurdities. Well, do you? Yeah.
And we want to demonstrate this sort of God to be very specific. So, Chris,
So-
you make your argument, and when you
Do you-
finish,
okay, that's
I don't
fine.
think we should just.
Well, but my
feed
point
off
is that
in every-
as a Muslim, you need to think about this as well. Like,
Think about what?
What does it mean for God to be all powerful? What are you actually saying there? Can God like go against His own will? No, I would say no. I don't think He can. But if you think God can do all things, you'd have to say He can actually go against His own will. He can actually will something and will the opposite of it at the same time. Well, surely that is an absurdity. Allah is not absurd. I mean, that seems to me to be fair. This is a rational argument. And this is why it's important for us to understand our terms and to define them properly. If we don't do that, we end up in making God an absurdity that no one really can believe in. I mean, I wouldn't believe in an absurdity, because then I'd be absurd myself, right? This is why this is important. We need to know what we mean by all-powerful, what we mean by all-knowing, and so on and so forth. Even like being like morally perfect in Islam, I think that's problematic, because in Christianity we say God has a good nature. He is the good nature, right? He can't act outside of that, because to do so would mean that you have a God that is both good and capable of being evil at the same time. But in Islam, my understanding is that it's just Allah's will. Whatever Allah wills is good. But then Allah could will anything and it would be good. If Allah desired the calamity upon humanity, it would be good because Allah willed it.
Yeah, but
Problematic. Do you understand?
You finished?
Yeah, I just wanted to make...
No,
yeah.
I think it's fair to give you an opportunity to
I appreciate
clarify
that.
yourself.
Thank you. Yeah, that's good.
But also, when I'm trying to present an argument,
Okay.
I expect the same.
That's fine, but you should take that into account when you present it. So when you say, does your God know all things? You should think about what I mean by all-knowing. Can your God do all things? You should think about what I mean by, can He do all things, right? Because that's
Chris,
fair. Yeah.
That point you made there,
Yeah.
you made that point several times across there. Several times.
Well, I sort of tried to, but we kind of
Can
got
I
a little bit
finish, please?
intertwined.
You
Yeah.
made that point several times.
Yeah.
You made the same point repeated right here.
Yeah, I
And
finished it here.
if-
I've done now. I'm done. I
If
finished
now,
it.
I'm
Yeah.
going to unpack that.
Yeah,
to
that's cool.
explain to you
I
why
love that. That'd be
we
awesome.
would take a different position.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't think it would be fair to us for you to come and repeat that.
Oh, I won't repeat it again, I guess. I mean, I only needed to say just that bit. You can take, have the floor. Tell me your position.
So you and I start off the conversation
Yeah.
by understanding who God is and who
Yeah.
God is not.
Yep.
We made it very clear that the unique characteristics of God is that God is all-knowing.
Yes, we agree on that.
God is fully, without exception, independent. All of God's creation depend and rely upon God.
Okay, so
And-
sorry, you've
Chris,
just introduced something new there.
Just a minute.
Okay, all right.
I know it's something new,
Yeah.
but not every time a thought comes to your head, based on what I say, it give you the right to interrupt
I know,
or
but
disrupt.
but
But
we
what I'm
need
trying
to
say,
agree
as
on
a
these
Christian,
things.
As
Yeah.
a Christian,
Yeah.
you should have some self-restraint.
Yeah.
You should have some self-control.
Yeah, that's fine.
Right.
You can continue to explain something.
Right. But what I'm
Yeah.
saying, so what I'm saying, we were trying to understand who God is and who God is not.
Yeah.
Now, if somebody's having a relationship with God, and you're having a relationship with God with a language that is defiant of God, then you're having a relationship with other than God. So our starting premise was God is all-knowing. We agree that. You agree with the statement God is all-knowing, but you agree with it with exceptions. He's all-knowing, but Jesus is God. He's all-knowing, but Jesus in flesh is not all-knowing. He's all-knowing, but so you had some reservations about it. And in your reservations, you said, I will agree that God is knowing, and He's perfect, and He's full ability, but there's a but to it. And your but is that you take an example of a human condition and says, this human condition of me, meaning to say, I am a male, I may not understand what it is to be a female, therefore I use this example and apply it to God. So I'm saying to you, I understand what you're saying. You agree that God is all-knowing, but not absolute. You agree God is all-knowing with a but in it. You agree God is perfect with a but. So you always have some kind of exception or reservations to it. That's what you call clarity. I'm saying to you now, again, there's nothing that is outside of God's knowledge. Nothing that is in existence that is outside of His knowledge. Nothing can act. A leaf cannot fall. An ant cannot move. Nothing can move or live except He allows that to live. Now, so the question is, again, we're having a conversation here. If these God attributes are added to God creation, that's where you end up into idolatry. That's where we end up into idolatry, because a lot of idolaters today, they take God qualities, God unique attributes, and they attribute it to. Yeah, how you doing? So they take God unique attributes and add it to the creation. And this is how we have different religions. Is they taking God attributes and attributing it to the creation.
Okay. And you mean unique ones, though, right?
That's right. Allah being all alim, and He has all qadir ala kulli shay. He has all power, all ability. I think Chris was arguing before that mankind can have some actions and abilities, and the creation can act and have ability outside of God's knowledge. He was arguing that.
Wait, outside of God. What I mean is that there are certain things that it seems weird to ascribe to God as part of His knowledge.
Yeah, but what you
Right.
were describing is based on flawed human experience.
That's right.
As humans, we need experience to understand things, but God does not need experiential knowledge. So it's not even right to say God does not have some sort of knowledge and call it experiential, because God does not have. it's not-
Well, it depends. You seem to be of the view, or at least you seem to be implying that He also has experiential knowledge. He also has that.
I'm saying He's not flawed.
No, because you said He knew all things that could be. So that means that it's possible for then, like for example, you're not God. So does God know what it's like to be something that's not God?
He has knowledge.
You know,
Full knowledge.
He knows it. But you see,
you try to call it experiential knowledge.
but it's a type of knowledge, yeah.
For him,
Yeah,
it's,
human
for him,
knowledge.
it's
No, in philosophy, like this is a debated thing when you look at theistic arguments about what do you mean by all-knowing. And this is why I want to break this down, because this is a really important topic, right? You can't just say that God knows all things without explaining what that means. Do you just mean all propositions? Do you mean
for clarity, clarity?
Yeah.
I would like you to point out to me the things that God doesn't know that you know.
Well, he doesn't know what it.
There are things that you know that God don't know. You tell me that.
Because I've experienced things that God hasn't experienced.
He doesn't know.
Because God. Okay.
He doesn't know.
Does God know what it's like to be Satan?
He knows.
He knows what that's like.
Do you know why? Do you know why? Can I tell you why? Can I tell you why?
Okay, right.
Can I tell you?
I don't think that's a valid form of
I agree
knowing
with
something.
that. Yes.
Yeah.
I agree with that.
God
knows
right.
what it is to be Satan, because Satan took one of God's qualities, like mutakabbir,
What's that one?
self-greatness.
Okay.
So God is the only one entitled to absolute self-greatness.
Well, he's the only one that can have that, right?
That can possess it.
Right.
Satan
Yeah.
wanted to take that quality.
Right.
So God knows that this quality belongs to me, and he knows when man try to take God qualities and how they get corrupt. But what I'm trying to say to you, tell me 5 things that you know that God doesn't know.
Well, just experiential knowledge.
God doesn't know that.
Well, I mean, do you think God has drank a Diet Coke?
Yeah, but the question is this.
I mean, you understand how you okay.
I understand the ridiculousness of it. I understand that.
I also think he doesn't know falsehood.
Right. But the question
So, for
is,
example, he does not know that I am 8 foot tall.
who does not know that?
God doesn't know that.
He
You
doesn't
know
know
why?
that.
Because I'm not 8 foot tall. So God doesn't know it. God knows all true things. He does not know falsehood.
Another way of saying it, especially like making it closer to the Quran, when Allah said that talks about how they worship Jesus, and he talks about how he poops and sleeps and he drinks, is to say that Allah doesn't do that. So Allah doesn't know the experience to poop and eat and drink.
Yeah, he doesn't know it. And to be honest with you, it wouldn't befit His Majesty to know that anyway.
Sorry?
I don't think it would befit His
Maghrib
Majesty.
time. Prayer time. So thanks a lot.
Okay, for sure.
Yeah, you can always continue.
No worries.
It's prayer time.
God bless you guys.
Yeah. But it's interesting questions, right?
Yeah.
Interesting stuff.
Bro, look, the whole thing is because experiential knowledge is flawed knowledge. So God having that knowledge, we as humans.
Well, it's not flawed because it is things that we know. Like you actually know what it's like to be you because you experienced it.
Like, you know how it feels like to be stabbed. God doesn't know how
Yeah,
to feel.
God doesn't know because He can't be stabbed.
Okay, I feel you.
All right. Well, take care, guys.
There we
That was
are.
interesting. Shall we do a wrap up? Had a really good chat with some Muslims. It was kind of like a long one. But yeah, a lot of what that came down to was about God's attributes. What does it mean to say God is all-knowing? What does it mean to say He's all-powerful? And it's interesting because I gave the classical understanding that Christ has 2 natures, but when they're not happy with that response, I thought, you know what, it's important to ask them, what do you mean by all-knowing? Because there are different types of knowledge. There's propositional knowledge, there's experiential knowledge. And it seems very odd to say that Allah knows what it's like to drink Diet Coke. It seems very weird to say that. And it would also kind of be weird to say that Allah knows falsehood. Does He know false things? So again, we need to qualify what we mean by knowledge. And this is something that I think our Muslim friends can understand better, because they seem to have a very naive view of what Allah is. They think he can do all things, including like make a squared circle or make a married bachelor. I mean, again, it's just nonsense, but they think Allah can do it. How does that work? I don't think it can work. And this conversation, leading up to it, it was all about free will and determinism. I argued that Allah is the one who determines all things in Islam, so there is no real free will. You don't really get to choose to do things of your own volition. Whereas in Christianity, we have free will. We have a genuine free will. God knows all things, and He knows what our future choices will be freely, and He takes those into account when He sent His Son, His only begotten Son, to die for us to atone for our sins. So come to Christianity, we have answers. We are able to relate to philosophy and to reason and to logic, because we are made in the image of God, and we believe that God Himself is reason, He is logic, He is truth, He is goodness, He is all of the great making properties. God bless you all. I hope you have a great day.